So GRMD, I know it's been a little while since we talked. A lot of things going through my mind, a lot of changes in my life personally. Life got a lot more busy. Everywhere I look, everywhere I see, I just see changes. I see changes. I see things changing and evolving, and I think it's happened more. It's more quickly than it has been in the past. I see evolutions. I see models that previously worked no longer working. Private practice models may no longer work in our society. This idea that one radiologist can do everything well doesn't seem to be working out. In fact, we know this. The training does not reflect this. The training reflects subspecialization. But if you have a small group of, maybe 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 radiologists, how can you adequately cover every single subspecialty, within the constraints of the system, including things like providing call coverage, providing vacation time. I think that private practice models are changing. I think that larger groups are able to leverage the value of subspecialists, but it comes at a price. Larger group means that basically the monies, the income, has to be split up. And if that larger group decides to partner with a corporate entity, well, then definitely the profits are being sent to that corporate company. Is that all good? Is that all bad? No, nothing is all good. Nothing is all bad. Working for a corporation is not in itself a bad thing. Corporations are not in themselves a bad thing. I don't think it's right to villainize corporations. I mean, matter of fact, this weekend I went to Starbucks. That's a corporation. I enjoyed a nice hot cup of coffee, sitting inside of a nice space created by a corporation. What corporation means to me is that, anywhere I go, I see Starbucks, I kind of have an idea what to expect inside of there. There's a certain level of quality that is maintained. Same thing with McDonald's. When I go traveling, I often eat at McDonald's because I know what I'm getting. I know that if I'm hungry, I can get a $6 salad with chicken on it. It's going to taste good. It's going to be relatively inexpensive. It's going to be healthy. I can get that anywhere that I see those double arches. So corporations are not in and of themselves a bad thing. Now, do you have to split the profits with the corporation? Of course. Of course. That's how the game works. But I'm realizing you just cannot have it all in this radiology game. You cannot have it all. Do you want to be a radiologist? Do you want to be a businessman? Do you want to run after insurance companies and payers and try to get your checks because they're not coming in the mail? Do you really want to be on the phone fighting for that? Or do you want to offload that onto a company that deals with that? Do you want to be making business decisions, or do you want to be making patient care decisions? And what can you maximize? What can you leverage? What are the skills that you have that you can actually maximize and leverage? I don't think you have to do everything well. I think you need to do at least 1 or 2 or 3 things well. You need to do something really well. If you can do something really well and really fast and really efficiently, I think you can be successful. I'm reminded of this Indian interventional cardiologist that practiced in New York City. And he just became the guy that did cardiac catheterization. And he just focused on this. He went all in cardiac catheterization. I heard, last I checked, I heard it worked out well for him. I did hear he got into some legal trouble, so I'm not sure about that. But I did hear that in the short term, he was generating a very solid income and helping quite a few patients. I think you do have to focus in on what you're good at and go all in on that in order to be successful. And I think the corporations, as bad as some people make them out to be, I think they make it so that you can at least do that. You can focus on that thing that you're good at. Personally, I like the idea of being a businessman, but I don't like the idea of spending a lot of time chasing people down, trying to get paid. And that, unfortunately, that's a lot of what private practice is. But that's not everything. There's other things. I see physicians changing. I see physicians changing their roles, their perspectives. I see physicians moving from the hospital system to outside of the hospital system. Right in front of me there is a 400-bed hospital, and right behind me there's an outpatient vascular center. And I'm seeing physicians that have worked in this setting, in the hospital setting, for years, decide they no longer want to work in the hospital setting, they want to work in the outpatient vascular setting. A lot of reasons for this, a lot of legitimate reasons. One of the reasons is actually just better patient care in some aspects. Patient with peripheral vascular disease, which is very common, believe it or not, it's extremely common. They can come into an outpatient setting, they can check in, they can go right into a procedure suite, which is staffed by well-trained nurses, technologists, staffed by well-trained interventional radiologists. They can have a very safe but a very complicated and delicate procedure done under fluoroscopy, and they can have their leg revascularized, and they can go home the same day. And actually they can do this in a setting that is way more cost effective than a hospital. They can do this in a setting where they're still billing insurance companies, but they're generating a huge deal of profit, much greater profit than you can obtain from working in the hospital setting. And that profit is split up amongst the people that own the vascular center and the physicians that work there. And this is actually a win-win for some physicians, for some radiologists. Now, there are some drawbacks. Rather than working in a hospital where you're dealing with a multitude of problems, you sort of pigeonhole yourself, or I wouldn't say you pigeonhole yourself, but basically you do focus in on one area. Again, that idea that focusing on one area can be a path to success. You focus in on one area, you get very good at it, and you start to maximize the potential of that area as a physician. Hospital-based medicine is not easy. A lot of different factors that make it not easy. A lot of bureaucracy for legitimate reasons. It's not so easy to just show up in the hospital and expect that you can make a very comfortable living as a physician. It's changed. The power has changed. One thing I'm noticing is that as a physician, you kind of have two professional fees as a radiologist. You have the professional fee associated with interpreting the exam or performing the procedure, and you have the professional fee that's associated with actually running the machine. And honestly, what's becoming more and more important, I think, is understanding that in order to really generate profit as an individual, a corporation, you have to have control over running that machine. And in the hospital setting, physicians do not have control over running that machine. And that, I think, is what's driving a lot of physicians outside of the hospital setting. But it's power, it's control. Things are always shifting. It's never one way. It's always shifting back and forth. I think that's good. We need that. Paradigms have to change. Things have to keep evolving. That's all about I got to say.